Welcome, Megan, to Metallarium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Vexed, this new album, and more things related to the metal world. Now, we are starting with a common question, I think. How has band been during the last 2 years? Because your first album, Calvin Culture, was released in 2021. Now we have a new album out in 2020, this year, Negative Energy. So how has it been during these years? Well, the last months.
I mean, the last few months have been great because we've been writing the new music and releasing it, which is always great. But before that, having to sit around during the pandemic and all that, it was very boring and quite stressful. But yeah, recently the band really good. We're just sort of getting ready to do some touring and really busy. So yeah, we're very happy at the moment.
Okay. One detail that I saw in your biography is that the band, since the calling culture is with Napalm Records, a great one of the biggest labels around the world into the metal aspect. So how was you entered to the Napalm Records? Because for a new band at that time, it's very uncommon that a new band released with a big label.
Honestly, it was pure luck. We had an album fully recorded, and we were trying really hard to find a label to release it with because we didn't want to release it independently, because we knew that if we could find a label that we would have a bigger reach, because we wanted as many people to hear it as possible. We honestly didn't expect to hear anything back from Napalm, but they heard the album and really liked it and were just like, yeah, let's do it. And yeah, we were really shocked, really excited, and couldn't have signed that contract quicker, to be honest. And they're great. They're lovely people to work with, really cool label. And yeah, I think it's one of the best decisions we've made as a band. We're very lucky.
Yeah. So now I've been seeing two albums in a row in 2 years, and the last album the previous album calling Culture was released at the end of the pandemic. Now without pandemic, so will you focus more and promote this Negative Energy, or will you promote both albums? Because I think the calling culture was the calling culture was we didn't have a good promotion because at the end of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think I agree. It didn't have good promotion at all. All the plans that we had to tour with it got cancelled, obviously. We were meant to tour with Whitechapel and do some amazing festivals, and yeah, it just all got cancelled and we were very upset. But I think because of all of that, it's kind of we kind of want to not forget about the album, but just leave it behind, I think, now, and focus on the new stuff, because there's a lot of, culling culture had a lot of bad memories attached to it because of all of that. So we just want to promote the new stuff. We'll probably still play a couple of songs like Hideous and Fake off the old album, but we want to focus more on the new stuff.
Okay. Well, one thing that I saw about the Vexed and a lot of bands more around this 3 or 4 years is that these kind of bands are playing like alternative metal new influence like degen, progressive, etc. So, but a curious thing is that I think we are living in a second wave of the alternative metal since the 90s to now, because a lot of bands are playing now this kind of style. So how do you think that you are in exact moment and a great time to create this kind of music, or perhaps you just repeating what the old bands did in the 90s?
I don't know. I mean, we just write what we like, and whatever comes out, no matter what the genre, we keep it. Some of our stuff is a lot more sort of deathcore, and then other stuff is alternative, and we don't think too much about trying to fit into a mold or a trend. We just write stuff, and if it comes out and we like it, we'll put it on a record. So I think that there has definitely been like a 90s revival of bands, but bands that are doing it just for the sake of like being on a trend will probably die out quite quickly. I think you've always got to be authentic to yourself and take inspiration from bands that you actually like. Otherwise it just comes across, you know, disingenuous, and it won't last.
Okay. Well, now compared to the previous word and this new negative energy, how many difference that the list, well, especially you will find, well, you find in this new album? For me, the first album is more stronger, more harder than the other sometimes, and this new album is very different. It's like a little poppy into this new album into also. So for you, what kind of difference we that the listeners will find into this new one?
We honestly love the new one so much more. We still love the old one because it was our first album. We were very proud of it at the time, but we've outgrown it. We're far more mature now. And I think our latest album is much heavier. It's much more mature and certain of its own identity. We kind of know what we want to sound like and not afraid to be a heavy band. So yeah, I think this time round we're just a lot more certain of how we want to sound, and it comes across a lot more confidently.
Okay. Other aspect that I've been developed a lot of curious is about the cover art, because I saw like a lollipop there with a lullaby there. So that's one, yeah, with the dragonfly, sorry. So that's a curious thing, and the name is negative energy. So why do you how do you relate the name negative, because negative energy, like bad karma, or so people say,
Yeah.
bad karma, with the dragonfly with the lollipop?
So the dragonfly in a lot of cultures and wherever I could find is a symbol of grief or grieving, and or the death of a loved one. And so I wanted to use a dragonfly because that was sort of the best way to kind of summarize in a visual that the album was about grieving and loss. But then I also wanted to create that kind of confusion and be like, what the hell? Like, why is there a lollipop there? Because that represents how things can often look really sweet and nice, but actually the reality is very different. So you know, the dragonfly is stuck to the lollipop. It's having to carry this around wherever it goes, and that represents the grief, the bad mental health, the struggle. And you know, it's therefore becoming weaker as it's flying around. And the only way to escape it is to rip its legs off. So it's there's sort of it was made to kind of make people think that doesn't make sense, but then actually it kind of describes how pretending to be okay and sort of putting a brave face on when you're going through the grieving process kind of looks.
Okay. Well, I saw that when when the band was born in 2019. 2019. Then you start to create new music with singles, with these two albums, etc. But the curious thing now from this new generation of bands is that the music are related more with the singles now. Now the digital platforms are using to recommend this band just by singles, not full albums. So in a world that demand a lot of singles, not albums anymore. So why are you continuing to create an albums in a world like this?
Honestly, just because I love albums. We love albums. And I know that, you know, the internet and algorithms and social media loves singles, but it didn't feel authentic to just put out single after single and maybe make an EP when the topic of negative energy was something so deep and meaningful and big. It couldn't just be expressed over the course of a few singles. So, you know, it may not suit the new world of internet crazes and viral moments, but it was important for us to write an album. And I'm glad we did, because I hope albums don't die out. I think they're important. I love listening to albums from start to finish and really kind of going through a journey with an artist instead of just having 2 to 3 minutes of something, you know.
Okay. Well, the last years, as I told you about the alternative metal, progressive metal, the gen, one of the big bands in UK is Architects, because they mix pop. Well, a lot of things happen into the music, well, especially the alternative. For you, what does the style need to be a different from its origins now?
What, as in, how is our sound
Yeah.
I think we've probably gotten a lot less mainstream friendly. I think the first album was probably more radio friendly, whereas this one we've gone heavier, we've gone darker. And I don't know if that will keep fans or scare fans away, but ultimately we wanted to be a heavier band, so that's what we did. And I think if bands like Architects or Bring Me the Horizon want to do the mainstream, lighter, poppy stuff, it's great, because ultimately that all trickles down to the heavier bands. It brings in new fans who want to listen to heavier music, and we all reap the benefits of it eventually. But I can't imagine us ever doing that sort of thing. You never know, but I can't imagine it.
Okay. So we are very close to this interview, Megan. And for this aspect, what kind of what kind of plans do you have for this new album, Negative Energy? Perhaps you will embark. Well, you told me perhaps you do some tours, you will some gigs in Europe. So perhaps you will embark at the first tour in US or Australia, Asia, or who knows, you will came to the Latin America. Who knows?
Yeah, so we're doing some tours in the UK and then around Europe. But we really want to go wherever we can. America, South America, Asia, Australia, anywhere that will have us. So if we can make it happen, we'll do it, because it's what we live for, it's what we want to do. But ultimately we just want as many people to hear it as possible. And yeah, travel the world.
Okay. Other aspect when talking about, as I said in the first question, talking about other aspects in general. So now, the metal is more accepted for the people in singing programs like American Idol, like The Voice, etc., etc. And as you can see, a lot of people are now more easily to use extremely t-shirts, hard t-shirts, etc. There are more people with a lot of aspects doing YouTube channels with painting corpse paint like black metal, etc., etc. So, and with this aspect, do you think the metal and the receipts to the society or against the control as the say 70s and 80s are the same with this new era, because now the metal is accepted?
Yeah, I think it's a tricky one. I think it kind of goes round in circles. You see sort of trends happening and going and coming back. And like you said earlier, the 90s has come back into fashion, but give it 5 years and it won't be anymore. It'll be something else, and metal will be bad again. In sort of mainstream ears. But I think metal has the beauty of always being in fashion, because we are our own community and we don't consider or care about what's in fashion on the mainstream, or what's cool or what's not cool. We have our own ideas and our own likes and dislikes. So I think metal will always be around, whether people like it or not.
Oh, yes. And with this aspect, well, as you know, a lot of big names like Nuclear Blast, Intermedia are now with Warner Bros, with Sony Music, with the big the big medias in music industry and in the entertainment industry in general. So, do you think now we are a little we're in a better world for metal, or because now the entertainment area are more declined, to lean down to see what bands, because this kind of entertainment needs to sell a lot of things, the physical stuff especially. And with this aspect, the metal are provided, because we are, as you tell, you are a community, and we prefer to hear the music here in the CD, vinyl, tapes. And the pop area, know this kind of aspect is very far from to sell to sell physical stuff. So do you think that now we are living in a better world for metal?
I think for proper heavy metal,
Mhm.
maybe not. But I think for mainstream, easy to listen to metal, yes. I think if you're a mainstream metal band that's very radio friendly and, you know, more on the rock side, then that sort of thing works really well because you'll always be able to pump out catchy singles and it can go on the telly, the TV, and you know, it's sellable. It's, you know, it's almost like cookie cutter children's metal. Whereas I think big labels and media people like that would have a difficult time trying to do that with other bands like, I don't know, Slipknot or Immure or Meshuggah. You know, they'd find that, like, how do we market these people? But I think that's also the appeal is, you know, we don't need or necessarily want the mainstream approval. So I think it's got both sides. It's great in some ways because it will attract younger listeners into listening to light stuff and light rock and light metal, and then it might bring them into the heavier side. It might bring them to the dark side. But then at the same time, you know, it does mean that less and less people understand, well, more people are hearing the lighter stuff, and then when they hear the heavy stuff, they're like, oh. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both.
Okay. Well, one of the last questions. Well, you know, there are a lot of bands in the metal world recorded the cover songs, but not no metal cover songs, just pop songs, like hard rock songs, are very far away from the from the metal scene. So, what do you think the old metal bands and new metal bands are still trying to record these pop songs, rock songs, blue songs outside of the metal? What for you? You are a musician, so if you have the opportunity to record a pop song, which song will be?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many pop songs that I like. Because I listen to pop a lot because I think it's good to have a break from metal. Otherwise, you know, it's not as enjoyable when you listen to it if you're just listening to it all the time. So I would probably record something really cheesy and really, I don't know, something like Britney Spears, something really cheesy.
Okay, okay. Well, Megan, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoy this one like me. I love your last record, Negative Energy, great one. I hope someday you will come to Latin America to see you live. Hope so. Finger crossed.
Yes.
So perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalero followers?
Just thank you so much for listening to our stuff and listening to me ramble on. We really, really appreciate it. I genuinely really appreciate it. And hopefully one day we can come out to Latin America and have a party, have a really good show.